You're watching Impact on BBC World News. I have my freedom of speech. Those were the last words a retired university professor was heard saying in an interview before the line went dead. Professor Sun Wenyang, a critic of Xi Jinping's government, was speaking to US-funded broadcaster Voice of America when Chinese police broke into his home. That moment was broadcast live. Here it is.
你干什么？你干什么？我跟你说，看人家你到我家来，你到我家来是犯法的，我有我的言论自由。
Quite abrupt, as you can hear. Well, I'm joined by Howard Zhang from the BBC's Chinese service and Kerry Allen, China media analyst for BBC Monitoring. Howard, first, tell us more about this Professor Sun. I mean, he's well known and he's been in trouble plenty of times before.
Oh, yeah, and he's been for the past many decades, all the way since the time of communist government taking over. He's always been a vocal critic of lots of the government policies. Even during Mao's notorious Cultural Revolution, he's spoken out as being classified as a rightist at that time, meaning people who believe in capitalist systems, and he was in prison for more than, in a reform camp for more than 7 years at that time.
So he's been punished before, but
many times.
This is a step further than we've seen before.
In a way, it's sort of pulling from your home when you're doing an interview with the Voice of America. I think that in itself, it's probably a bit rare. But in terms of in and out of police questioning and invited for all sorts of by authorities, those were not new.
Kerry, this moment, this incident, is it being reflected in Chinese media or social media chat?
Absolutely not. Voice of America, anyway, in China is blocked, so people can't access it, the website, or even access it via radio. For him to have done an interview, people wouldn't have heard about this, and they wouldn't have heard about this on the BBC. So, if they search, for example, his name, they've heard somebody mention his name and they search it on social media or on Baidu, which is what Chinese people use instead of Google, they won't see any reports whatsoever mentioning it.
So, Howard, my thought when I heard about this was, isn't it counterproductive for figures of authority to go in and do this? I mean, it kind of draws attention to him. But as Kerry's been saying, well, not in China. And
also, you have to sort of switch places, think from the authorities' point of view, because China spends more money each year on what they call the Stability Fund or the Harmonious Fund than their military spend. And the overriding concern for them is they want to nip the all sort of dissent in the bud. And this person, after repeated warning, after repeated sort of detentions, and you're still trying to talk to Voice of America and say bad things about the president, and for them, we still have to talk to you, because otherwise the police, if he had completed his talk openly critical of the president, then the police would have been told, okay, how can you guys, do your job if you can't even manage this old man?
And Kerry, I know you've been looking at other examples of academics who want to call attention to what they see as contradictions, perhaps, in what President Xi is saying, and it's perhaps an increasingly dangerous thing to do.
It is, and a lot of these figures, lecturers in universities, professors, they have a large following on social media. They're able to create accounts themselves, they publish books, and they're becoming more and more vocal, and people do engage with them increasingly. So there was actually a report only this week of a professor at Tsinghua University, which is one of the most prestigious universities in China, and he'd written an essay saying that he thought that the Xi Jinping abolition of the leadership trend was he felt that that a president should have a term, and that effectively having a president for life in China was wrong. And he wrote this in this essay, and it got a lot of attention online.
We have to leave it there. But Kerry and Howard, thank you very much. Appreciate your expertise on this story, this fascinating story about what's happened in China. Now.